Hello. So today in this video, I want to talk with you for a little bit about generational trauma and curses. This is something that can really affect women on this journey of coming out later in life. So I felt it was important to go over this and also share with you some ways to start breaking free of this. So my name is Emily Better. If you're new here, I am a late life lesbian myself and the late life lesbian life coach. So what this means is for me, I was married to a man for 11 years. We had a son together, and during this time, I realized I was, in fact, a lesbian. We made the decision to get divorced, and I came out and am now remarried to a woman. And I also help other women now navigate this journey so that they can live as their true, authentic selves. So, as I mentioned in this video, I wanted to talk about generational trauma and curses. This is something that came up in one of the group calls that I run. If you're interested, you can find out more information about the supports and resources I have for you in the links below this video. But in talking with a woman, we were talking about her daughter, and especially when you have kids, this concept of generational trauma and curses really comes into play when you're figuring out your sexuality later in life. And it's present no matter what for so many people, but I think it's something that definitely ties to realizing your sexuality later on in life and trying to come out. Because so let's just dive in. So, generational trauma and curses. So, generational trauma is when maybe you've had a family member who has experienced some type of trauma, and due to that trauma, they behave in a certain way and parent you in a certain way. And so you end up taking on sort of your own traumas based off of their behavior and reactions. And then you, as a parent, based off of your trauma, if you don't work and heal from that, can then pass those things on to your own child. And the cycle just continues to go and go. And along those same lines with generational curses, is often these are sort of negative ideas, beliefs, concepts that people hold, and then they end up passing those ideas and beliefs down to each generation. And then each generation that adopts and absorbs those beliefs and practices end up then passing it to their kids. But some of these things, racism and homophobia are great examples. We have older generations who may have had racism or homophobia, and they pass those things down because that's just what they grew up in, and nobody has broken the cycle. So for many of us on this journey of coming out later in life, we are at the point of breaking cycles. We are breaking generational trauma and we are breaking generational curses, because we are the ones that are saying in many situations that we are no longer going along with the homophobia. We're no longer staying silent. We're no longer just being the wives and the women that keep our mouths shut and sacrifice our own wants and needs for the sake of our family and our husbands and things like that. We are breaking past all of that to live as our authentic selves. And there is a lot of work we often have to do in order to do that and to break free. And it can be really hard because when we are surrounded by families or people, or grew up in a way that taught us one thing or expected one thing of us, it's really difficult to break free and away from that. And so I want to share with you a few ways that you can start doing that and build that confidence and work towards breaking these generational traumas and curses. So, number one is just to acknowledge and start to understand what the trauma or curse is. Knowing that it's there, knowing what it is, and knowing that you want to do something about it is one of the first steps that you can take in starting to break this. Okay, so acknowledgement and starting to understand what this is, what it looks like, where it comes from. Okay, number two is to seek professional help. If you have your own traumas, and if you are even, a product of generational trauma and have kind of absorbed the trauma of a parent or a caregiver, understanding and working through your own trauma is very important. So, seeking some type of outside help to work with you through this, to help you personally build your confidence, help you heal from your own traumas, and help give you sort of that strength to move on. This is something I can actually work with you on in coaching sessions and by utilizing some particular mindset strategies to heal from this and be able to move on. If you're interested, there is again links below this video if you'd like to work directly with me on that. But any other type of professional help too is very important in working through this. Okay. Number three is to also practice self care. You need to start taking care of you, especially women on this journey of coming out later in life. One of our traumas and sort of curses is that we are very often people pleasers and we are constantly wanting to take care of everyone else. We're wanting to sacrifice our own needs and just shove those to the side. And probably because we've even been taught and told over the generations that that's just our role and what we're supposed to do. And so we often do that and then work on taking care of everybody else. We say yes when we really want to say no. We push ourselves above and beyond when we really just need a break and we need to take time to recharge. So, starting to practice self care and doing things for yourself, things that make you happy, just taking care of yourself physically and mentally and emotionally, taking breaks when you need breaks, saying no when you really want to say no. These are small steps you can start to take care of yourself and start breaking free so you can be your own person and take care of your needs. Okay. The next thing that you can do is start establishing some healthy boundaries. This again is important on this journey of coming out later in life because if you are going to be approaching people who are potentially the cause behind this generational trauma and generational curses, there can often be a lot of toxicity there. Okay. And so, what you need to do is establish your own boundaries to help again protect you. Boundaries are there to protect you. Yes, they may make other people uncomfortable because your boundaries dictate sort of the standard of treatment that you will accept from others. And sometimes people are used to getting you to do whatever you want or getting you to say yes when you'd rather say no. And so if you start establishing some boundaries, it can upset some people, but that's okay because boundaries are there to help and protect you, to keep you safe, to keep your mental, emotional, and physical well being protected. And so, starting to establish healthy boundaries and your standards of treatment from other people are another important part of this. Okay. Number five, of things that you can start doing is practice forgiveness. Again, there are people in your lives who are likely the result of, these traumas and curses and experiences that you've had, and working to forgive not only them, but also yourself. We live this way for so long that sometimes we get angry and upset with ourselves and wish that we would have broken free sooner or, started working on this earlier. But practicing self forgiveness and forgiveness of others is important on this journey so we can really work to let that go. Anything that we hold on, either towards ourselves or towards others, just creates more inner conflict and inner turmoil. And so, learning ways to forgive and let go will really help you move forward and start breaking those generational traumas and curses. Okay. And the last thing you can do, number six, is just to start create new patterns. If you have realized some negative patterns that maybe you've even adopted, from exposure to all of this, you can start working on creating new patterns and even new routines. For example, let's just say that this is a family generational trauma and curse, and maybe you've realized this is very toxic, and especially in your coming out journey. And let's just say you're used to doing family dinners every week or something, but you've realized that those are too draining on you and you just don't have the capacity to do this. You can start to do your own thing. It's again okay to say no. That's self care and boundaries. You can create new patterns, you can create new routines. The other thing you can do is internal too. If you start to recognize your own thoughts and emotions and feelings falling back into some patterns that aren't, serving you anymore, you can start to work to recognize those and replace those with new thoughts and new patterns. This is an exercise I give sometimes, but kind of is helpful here too. The negative thoughts and patterns that can kind of come up and that aren't serving you anymore, you can tell your brain, when you recognize those, stop, and then think through what's a positive thought or new pattern that you can establish that would be that would serve you and who you want to be and where you want to go in this. Okay. So I hope that that helps you kind of give some guidance on how to start breaking free